Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek Lemaster.
This is Screen Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and we spy on our neighbors with lenses. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Had a good day.
Good.
Good weekend.
I mowed the grass.
Nice. I mow the grass this weekend too. It's always like fresh start.
Mow the grass, eh? Say no more. Say no more. Nudge, nudge. I watched Monty Python live at the Hollywood Bowl this weekend, so that's like in my head. Say no more.
Nice.
Say no more.
Yeah, I literally mowed the grass with the lawnmower and.
Well, he said knowingly. That's one of my all-time favorite punchlines, which is, so you slept with a lady, yeah? How was it? Great. So we have a lot to talk about this week. We are reviewing a certified classic film. We're getting back into the Hitchcock realm. This will be our second Hitch movie, with Rear Window. But before we get into that, guys, I have some horror news for you. Are you ready to hear it?
Let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, let's get into it. First, we have. This is kind of funny that we were off mic. We were talking about werewolves versus vampires and such, right?
Yeah.
We were, for those not privy to our private conversations.
We were. So this is great because there is a movie coming. You guys can see this? It is called Werewolf Santa.
Yes.
Look at this. This is up your alley, Derek. Werewolf Santa. The film centers on Santa Claus, who turns into a werewolf on Christmas Eve and wreaks havoc in a small seaside town, with a local YouTuber setting off on an adventure to save Christmas from this new threat.
Scroll back up there. Let's see that beautiful picture of Wolf Santa.
There he is. There's Werewolf Santa.
Beautiful.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I got go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got 3 letters for you. WTF.
I love the artwork. I don't know. It doesn't look like a mask that's movable if that is a mask.
No, it looks like artwork. You're right, Lydia.
Yeah. If that were the werewolf that we got in the movie, I would be like so psyched for this, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it won't be.
Yeah. This is a silly concept. It doesn't have distribution in the US or UK as of yet, but it has secured it'll be released in the UK and US in November of 2023 in theaters, by the way. And it has secured international rights. 101 Films has. So this is coming to theaters. So there you go. I guess it's going to be a small run, but mazel tov on getting theatrical distribution, right?
Heck yeah.
I know. We might have to make a special field trip to support this movie.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
If it's playing near us, we'll check it out.
Mm-hmm.
See if it hits the Midwest. Next, guys, we have a new look at Mike Flanagan's Fall of the House of Usher. You guys see that pic?
Yep.
So this is a Edgar Allan Poe. Yep, there it is.
Adaptation. Okay. It is, yes. It's an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation. Ooh, look at that shot. That's gorgeous. Right?
Yeah, I wish that I was more cultured, I guess, but I knew that he was the author of the story.
Of course,
I've
Kate
never
Siegel
actually
is in it.
read the
She is
story,
excellent as always.
which is a shame, and I'm ashamed of myself.
There's Mark Hamill. See him?
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Oh, of course, Carla Giugiano is always in these. Mike Flanagan joints. There's Henry Thomas. I mean, it
Nice.
looks gorgeous. It's,
It
you
looks
know,
good, yeah.
a Mike Flanagan joint, and you know how we feel about Mr. Flanagan's work. What do you guys think?
Oh man.
It's gonna
We're
be
there,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yep.
Speaking of Mike Flanagan, I have another bit of Flanagan news. He says that as soon as the strike ends, his priority is to adapt the TV series of The Dark Tower.
Nice.
So Stephen King's Dark Tower is his next adaptation. And I'm pumped for this because I read the books. I love the books. I was horribly disappointed with the Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey movie that came out several years ago. Not a fan. So I'm excited for this. What are you guys' thoughts on a Mike Flanagan Dark Tower?
Man, all you gotta say is Mike Flanagan, blah 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 blah, blah, and I'm in. I don't even care. If he made a documentary about Ronald McDonald, I would be there.
Well, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
probably kick a lot of ass.
Would be.
If you stop and think about Ronald McDonald real fast, what a weird fucking like mascot, right?
Right.
I don't know, man. I have a great fondness for the clown.
Hey, listen, I'm a Ronald head, okay?
Ronald Head. I'd have stayed at his house anytime.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Back in the day when clowns
Too far.
weren't, you know, widely hated.
Yeah, well, that's a terrible thing. Cause dude, Bozo, man, Bozo. I remember watching that, the
Yeah, I
Bozo
used to
show,
watch-
and
Used to watch
Yeah.
Bozo back in the day.
I always wanted to play
Did
that
you ever watch
stupid
Bozo,
game.
Lydia?
No.
It's because
You
you're
missed
just
out.
a
Your
little too
childhood
young.
was
You missed
tainted.
it. The game?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the bucket game, Derek?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I remember.
Lydia's like, okay, guys, you're showing your age.
But back to this, Lydia.
Yes.
What were your thoughts?
I have a question for you. Would you recommend reading the books before watching any rendition on the big screen?
Well, it really depends, doesn't it? Like, I think you get more out of it a lot of times. Just because, but you also aren't surprised if it's a faithful adaptation. Then you kind of know what's going on, right? So, like, it's a catch-22. I think you can watch the movie and read the book. Like, you watch the movie, then read the book after or before. It's up to you. I like to read certain books. Like, I think most of the big Stephen King movie adaptations, I've read the novel. So, like, usually after. Definitely, mostly after. I actually, the only ones I remember reading before, obviously, the It Chapter 1 and 2, I'd read the novel earlier. But, like, The Dead Zone, I read the book first. Because I didn't know the movie really existed. And the TV series was just about to start. So I read the book in, like, junior high or some shit, early high school. But that is a good question. With Poe, I guess it's different, right? Because the adaptation is going to be so much different because it looks like it's set in modern day.
Right.
So I would say you can, but I don't think it's going to ruin. They might hit the same beats, kind of like with Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. You know, the novel is quite different. So is the original movie. So, you know, but it has similar beats.
Right.
What are you guys? What are you guys' thoughts?
That didn't answer my question at all.
I thought I gave you a good reasons pro
Yeah,
and con.
I've been like really debating on like whether or not I should read the book, like just to get it
So which
soaked in,
one?
you know. The Dark Tower book.
Oh,
books.
definitely. I would recommend reading that. Yes, The Dark Tower specifically.
Yeah.
I'd recommend reading it because there's, even if it's a TV series, there's probably only so much they can fit into the adaptation in the allotted time. And there's, I think, 7, 8 books.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Obviously, start with the beginning, the gunslinger, and then go through. I read them cold. Like, I didn't know much about it. My aunt Lindsay had given me a bunch of books that she was getting rid of, like the ones that she thought I would like, Stephen King books, Harlan Coben books, which I ended up falling in love with the Myron Bulliter character because of that. But I read The Dark Tower because it was the gunslinger, and I was like, oh, I heard this is kind of like his Lord of the Rings, and it is, and it's excellent. The gunslinger, the original book, is awesome.
Nice.
The other ones are excellent too, but the gunslinger I loved a lot because you get in this fun, interesting world. It's good. It's good.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have time, Derek, you can pick up the audiobook.
I was thinking audiobook too, honestly.
No, I love reading on the written page and seeing it in my head and like hearing the voices in my head.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do too.
Like,
I have a hard time finding time to do that.
No, yeah, it is hard.
And if I do it at night, I fall asleep every single time.
If you have a commute, audiobooks are the way to go. Because you can do it on your way to and from.
Man.
Reading The Stand, which is like 1,100 to 1,200 pages, maybe 1,500 pages, huge. I read that and I flew through that book. I just was so engrossed in it. And that was, out of high school. And I remember so it was college years, and I just remember cramming it. Just every free moment I had, I'd pull out The Stand and being like, right before bed, I'd read for like 2 hours. I was engrossed in that book. And that's what a good book does, pulls you in.
Yeah.
You know what? I will divulge this because I feel comfortable with myself. There's one book that I have read twice that is over 15 pages.
It's The Notebook,
isn't
it?
It is The Notebook.
Jesus Christ.
It's the only book I've ever read twice.
Nice.
Well, you're going to have to read the script multiple times, so that'll be your next...
I mean, that's different. That's different.
Over 15 pages. 97.
I don't count scripts.
That's true.
Speaking of books.
Yes.
I found this beauty. Not to segue too early into our movie tonight, but I found this book at a thrift store. I'm like, I'm looking at myself on a little screen, so I'm like squeezed in here.
You can see it. We can see it.
Yes, I just thought it was a cool find, so I had to show it.
That's a very cool find. You have to update us on that. Okay, I only have a couple more bits of horror news. First bit is Dan Trachtenberg has commented on the possibility of a sequel to Prey.
Oh,
really?
He says he really can't say anything about it right now, but I'll say we are finishing the movie. While we were finishing the movie, we were really having exciting conversations. The studio, myself, and the producers about what crazy things we could do next. And I've never stopped. No one stopped thinking about the cool things that could be going forward. So it sounds like it's more than a possibility. Would you guys be up for this?
Only if they go in... I take that back. Yes, I would. But yes. I want them to go in one direction.
Yeah, and we haven't got to that, so we can't divulge anything about it yet. But we've all seen it, right? We've all seen Prey.
I have not.
You have not?
Derek.
I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to watch that.
You've seen Prey, right, Lydia?
Yes, it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah, we'll. It might be fantastic. It might not be. We'll have to wait till we review it to divulge this information.
Yeah, no. Spoilers.
All right.
Awesome.
This is we got a double whammy of Exorcist news. First.
Can't wait.
So David Gordon Green talks about coaxing Ellen Bernstein to return for the sequel. I mean, I don't know how much coaxing it would take, but he said that he wanted to evolve the character in a way that would be meaningful for Ellen beyond just a Chris McNeil revisit. So he basically it's kind of the same story that he did with Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween 2018. He wrote the part. He wrote Laurie Strode to be this, complex, interesting character, and presented her with that. And so it wasn't just a, return for this cameo. So he is saying that, once he did that, he read her biography, and, it was incredible to see her stepping into a role that she hasn't been in 50 years. So that's great. That's nice, right? Is it going to result in a great movie? I don't know. I mean, they might still be casting it as we speak.
We wrapped last week. Wait, we got one more.
Wait! I found another character that I think we can shove into this bad boy. So that is something that we need to. What are your guys' excitement level, optimism level for this movie at this point?
Cautiously optimistic.
Oh, dude. I'm going to short this beast. The financial term, its stock's going down.
So, you enjoyed the trailer, Derek.
That's the thing, man. If I knew nothing about this movie other than watching the trailer, I would probably be like, yeah. But just the insight information that we've gotten so far, I'm like, I don't know. I think that they've put their best foot forward with that trailer. And the next step is a pile of dog shit.
Eloquently put. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence too, Derek. I'm with you. There's stuff in it that I think the trailer was cool, but it really is kind of the Halloween 2018 treatment for The Exorcist. And
dude, I'm telling you, yeah.
I don't know. Like, we'll see, I guess. I loved Halloween 2018. But if it's literally like the same beats kind of thing, and I'm going to be like, we've seen this. Which, to be fair, we've kind of seen Halloween 2018 already, too, when it was called Halloween H2O. Or Halloween, I guess. But it's fine. And lastly, we have a tribute to hand out to the director of The Exorcist, William Friedkin. He passed away on August 7th at the age of 87.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a big giant winning life this guy had, not only did he direct The Exorcist, but he directed The French Connection, which won him an Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay. French Connection is phenomenal. One of the all-time best movies. He, of course, directed movies like, you name it, Sorcerer, movies like, The Hunted, Bug, Killer Joe, the remake to 12 Angry Men. He did bunches of episodes of Tales from the Crypt, in the Twilight Zone in the 80s. This guy is like an all-timer. So, rest in peace, William Friedkin. Even if you do fire guns on set to scare your actors on the set of The Exorcist.
Didn't he?
Got fantastic
performances,
right?
Yeah, didn't he slap somebody in the face?
I think he slapped
the priest in the face, I think he said.
Yeah, right before the take. Yeah, he did. But hey, you get winning results with that shit, I guess. I personally would not do that in 2023. But that's me.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, tonight we are doing Alfred Hitchcock's 1954. This movie is quite old at this point. His 1954 classic, Rear Window. Lydia, you picked this one. This was not your first time watching this, correct?
Correct. I think I watched this for the first time when I was in high school at some point. And I thought it was just such a cool movie. It like I don't know, it's just fascinating to me. So I've been dying to talk about it for a while now.
Derek, is this your first time watching Rear Window?
This is my first time watching this movie.
Ooh.
Although I feel like I've seen this movie 100 times.
It's a very influential movie, this movie.
It is. I had no idea.
Yeah, incredibly influential. So you've known the influences of this movie for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought that was.
You've heard of this movie? I'm assuming.
No.
Really?
Yeah. No. So I mentioned this to my wife. I was like, "Hey, you want to watch the movie with us, with me this weekend? It's My Rear Window." No. My rear view mirror is what I said, or something like that. I was like, "Do you want to watch my rear?" It's a movie called My Rear View Mirror, and she was like, "You mean Rear Window?" And I was like, "Is that what it's called?"
My Rear View Mirror sounds like a great movie, though. It's about a
Yeah,
guy. It's about a guy named Zach who drives over a parking block and his rear view mirror falls off.
No, man, I'm serious. Like before I started watching this movie, I thought it was going to take place in a car.
Nice.
This is excellent. This is excellent. I'm glad this is your first time and you had like a completely like new experience with this, mind-blowing experience. This is not my first time watching this. I've seen it a handful of times, but I haven't seen it easily in like 15, 20 years. So it felt like not quite a first watch because I knew things were happening, but almost because of like just the way things unfold. I kind of forgot the more the cinematography. I kind of forgot certain shots. And I'm watching this thing and I'm like, so I bought it on Apple and 4K HDR, and this movie is stunning in 4K. I was blown away by the 4K transfer of this thing, and I was like as soon as it started, the credits hit and stuff, and then we get the opening, and I was just like, my jaw was kind of on the floor with this transfer. I was like, every time I watched it on TV back in the day. I watched it on a grainy VHS, and I think the best quality I ever watched this was like one of the old school DVDs. So to see this movie in this stunning 4K restoration, I was gobsmacked by it. I was like, oh my God. So with that, let's get into it. Let's start with that opening. What do you guys think of this opening shot?
I loved it because it kind of set up the field of play, so to speak.
Everything. It sets up
was
everything.
Beautiful. It was beautiful, especially like once you get into the movie and you're just like, man, that opening shot was just masterful. It was great.
Lydia.
Totally agree. Yep, totally agree. It's awesome. The set is so cool, and you just get to see like kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
One of the things I love about this. Go ahead, Derek.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
No, you go ahead.
So one thing that kind of comes to mind is I can't recall another movie where like you get part of the way in this movie and you kind of are feeling it out, especially for somebody who thought it was going to take place in a car. But mid-movie, you like recall the opening shot and you're just like, wow. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I love that we not only get a lay of the land, so we see the way the buildings are set up, we see the occupants of the buildings, and then because we first flash on, we kind of open to Jimmy Stewart's forehead sweating, and we see the thermometer at over 100 degrees. We pan through everything, and then we go through his apartment, and we kind of get his entire backstory from just the shit in his apartment. And of course, he talks about it a little bit later, but you don't really even need that to understand why he's in the cast. I don't think. I think it kind of helps you if you weren't paying attention, but it's all right there. You see the crash, the scene of the crash. You see the broken camera. You see, he's in a cast, and you're like, oh, he got, taking pictures of race at crash and hurting, and it's just awesome shit.
Yes.
So we're introduced to these characters, and what I love about this movie, one of my favorite things, is how, except for one character, one character of the neighbors who comes in, that leaves the apartment, comes to Jimmy Stewart's apartment later. All of the other characters take place at a bird's eye view from their apartments, and we never see inside their apartments besides those windows. What do you guys think of that as like a choice?
What a choice.
You know, there's a simplicity to it that's just kind of amazing. That you don't have to do those things to tell a great story. I thought that was
right,
really nice.
And it builds the tension because we never really leave Jeff's apartment, which is Jimmy Stewart's character. So we don't leave Jeff's apartment. Everything that we see is from Jeff's window or Jeff's point of view. So we are stuck there like him. We don't leave his apartment until he leaves the apartment. Is when we actually go outside. But other than that, we see it kind of from where his perspective would be. Even if the camera's showing something, it's like it's zoomed in from his apartment, which is awesome. Just awesome.
It really is. It's so cool.
So we have this setup with Jeff being hurt. He's been laid up. His cast comes off in a week, so he's in a wheelchair. And he doesn't have anything to do with his time for these 7 weeks that he's been laid up, except for watch his neighbors. And they all have their windows open because it's over 100 degrees out, and AC isn't a household thing yet. So these guys just have their windows open. So we have a couple that like sleeps on the fire escape.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Love that. Just that little character detail. And let's kind of go through these neighbors real fast before we talk about Jeff and Lisa. So we have Torso, the woman, the one they call the Torso woman, which is a ballerina, this like gorgeous blonde girl that Hitchcock was always pushing that envelope, man. 1954, the first time we see this woman, her bra falls off, and she puts it on and we see her like topless from the back.
I made a comment to Quincy. I was like, "Wow, this had to be scandalous when it came out."
So there's her. There's the couple that sleeps on the windowsill that has a little dog. There is, of course, our main villain, Mr. Lars. What's his last name? Thorwald. So the Thorwald family, which is Lars and his invalid wife, Anna, who is asleep in the other room, or is in the bedroom. Then you have this bachelor over here that's always like with a different woman. You have the musical guy that's up there composing scores. Then you have Miss Lonely Hearts, who's always basically living her life like hoping for companionship. What do you think of these set of characters? Oh, and there's also the old woman that sleeps on the lawn chair.
Wait, did you miss the Newlyweds? Because that does play into this.
Yes, the Newlyweds is yes. What do you guys think of these characters?
They're so smartly, like, you know what? I don't even know what to say. They're like
smartly set up.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. They each play their role in the story, and they're all interesting. And there's you can see why he would people watch all day, because this is a fucking weird neighborhood. Like there's just so much going on, you know?
Yeah, I would say interesting, right? Because like the ballerina, and she constantly has people coming over. She's working on her choreograph and things like that. Which, by the way, at the end, whenever it's revealed that she has somebody, I was like,
yes.
Yeah, love the ending. It's so great because we're seeing her as like this promiscuous kind of woman about town that's trying to like, fend off the wolves. And then you find out that she has like and he's like a short little like
I know. That's
Me
why I
dude,
loved
just
it so
and
much.
he's just like, she's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're finally. I loved it too. I'm like,
It
yes.
was beautiful. And my favorite thing about her was when she was like dancing around her apartment eating like a chicken leg or something, you know?
Yeah,
She like grabbed something out of the fridge and was just dancing around eating it.
yeah,
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, that's a realistic thing. I feel like
yeah. Why not? It's just
You know,
so
each
great. Yeah,
when no one's looking, you know, when nobody's
yeah,
yeah.
looking, you just do silly
yeah.
things around
You
your
do
house.
shit. You do weird shit. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Derek?
You know, even though you don't get to intimately know these characters, like just from afar, just from his perspective and like the interest he's taken in them, you really do get a connection to somebody like Miss Lonely Hearts.
Yeah,
She is so compelling as a character,
yeah. I
which
agree.
is great. The newlyweds, which really connect with like where he's kind of at in his life and what steps people expect him to take in his life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of brilliant the way that these characters were designed.
Kind of drawn. Yeah, I agree. I love it
Mhm.
because they all end up playing a part at some point in the story, to a degree. And I just love that we get to spend time with these characters. And then there's Jeff, of course, which is our lead character, and he's Jimmy Stewart. He's fucking
Yeah,
great, right? I mean, he's just
Yeah.
yeah.
fantastic. Sarah watched a little bit of this with me, and then Connor started crying, so she took me to the bedroom. But she was enjoying it when she was watching it, and I asked her, I was like, how amazing is Jimmy Stewart? Like he's just so good. He's just so effortlessly good, and
Yeah.
like he's so natural. You know what I mean? He's just natural. Loved him.
You know what I really enjoyed about his character in this movie? So like we get introduced to his love interest, right? They're dating, and
Lisa,
she's
played by
just
the stunning Grace Kelly.
yeah, and she is like head over heels for him,
Yeah, and she
and
rules,
he
by the
is
way, as well.
just so huh?
I said, and she
What do you say?
rules as well. I said she rules as
She
well.
does rule. And so like she is so head over heels for him, and he's like doing everything he can to push her away because he is a man who knows what he doesn't want to change. He's got this lifestyle where he lives on the edge. He's constantly like going to new places because he's a photographer and he's capturing all these like beautiful pieces of art. And so like I mean his life I kind of envy. And he doesn't want that to
He
change. And I
and he
totally get
also
that.
doesn't think, yeah, and he also doesn't think that she would be able to fit in with that life, because in his
Yeah.
mind's eye, his perception of her is that she's a hoity-toity, you know, upper class woman who has a new dress every day. You know, the one that's $1,100, which I didn't do the math on.
Oh,
But
I did.
how
I
much?
did.
How much is it?
$12,500
So yeah,
for a
yeah,
dress.
$12,000 dress in 2023 money. But there's way more to her, Lisa, than that. We find out
There
how
is, yeah.
much more, and you know how far she. My favorite. There's a switch that comes, and I'll talk about it when we get there. But their characters are just great together, and I love watching.
Mhm.
And I also love the nurse, the insurance nurse that
Yeah.
comes in. Is their
Yeah.
dialogue is so good together. Like when we first meet them and we're getting backstory, it's so good.
She might be I don't know if she might be my favorite character. I love that nurse, man.
Yeah. She's
She
awesome.
she's a character and I love that about her.
Yeah, yeah, she's very interesting and like
Yeah.
feels very lived in. You know what I mean?
Yes. She's
Mhm.
so intuitive.
Yeah, and just her like scolding, you know, Jeff on, you know, what's wrong with her? Why don't you marry her? And he's like, you know, explaining to her like things have changed, and she's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Two people, attractive people, you know, love each other, they get married. I don't understand. It's just really funny, and then also how she's like, you know, scolding him about not sleeping in the bed and all these little things. And then she gets, my favorite is the fact that we have a trio. The movie, by the end of the movie, we have a trio. We have Jeff, Lisa, and the nurse all trying to crack this case, and they all are sucked
Mhm.
in. And I just love that so much. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So, what's I love the way that the mystery builds because it's very slow at first. Like, here's the thing about this movie: it builds, but it's never boring. You're never just like
I agree.
watch checking, and you're not like, man, is anything going to happen in this movie? You're just watching them,
Yeah.
and you're enjoying being in this world and talking to
Yeah.
these people. And then once the murder, supposed murder, takes place, we don't know what's going on at the time, but we see that the wife's shades are drawn, and things are just weird. And he sees him going out with his suitcase over and over again. He's starting to get suspicious. Jeff is starting to wonder what's going on. And then the wife's gone. He falls asleep and he misses a woman leaving the apartment. So we're led to believe that Jeff, you got it wrong. This woman left. But we trust him, so we're in on his side. We're on the ride. What do you guys think of this setup?
So I kept waiting for the switch, the bait and switch. The whole movie, I kept telling Quincy, I was like, man, I'm waiting for the twist. Like, this can't be so straightforward. And I'm glad that the twist didn't happen because it actually, and we're going to probably do a bunch of these. It was the Klopex, man. They got Klopex.
Dude, The Burbs is so much inspired by, I didn't even realize how much because I hadn't seen it in so long. I was like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
especially the dog stuff running around. I was like, that's fucking Queenie. What is going on here? This is The Burbs. I was like, I didn't realize how much, and they're both very funny and humorous. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, when the setup is great because we have a guy who can't leave that apartment, thinks he witnesses a murder, and then he's trying to convince other people. We've seen this setup a million times since this movie. Fright Night's one that comes to mind, except he can leave, but Fright Night's one. Disturbia is a complete remake of this movie. Yeah. Disturbia is this movie, modernized. There's a Rear Window remake with Christopher Reeve. There's just so many different Rear Window-esque movies that it's kind of wild. But the setup is classic. It's just perfect. A perfect setup. And I love that he ends up calling in his army buddy, a detective named Doyle, to come in and kind of do some snooping, unofficial snooping. Mm-hmm. And everything that Doyle is finding is leading him to believe that this woman is on a trip. She's gone. She's alive. There's a letter that says she made it. There's eyewitnesses saying that she boarded a train. There's eyewitnesses on the in the apartment complex that sees her and him leaving. There is they've tracked down the trunk that he thinks that her body was in, and it's full of clothes. So everything's leading them to, kind of. He's like, you're wrong on this one, Jeff. You're just going stir crazy. You're making things up. You're seeing things because you're bored. What I love is when he first tells Lisa about it, and at first she's kind of like that, and then one little thing flips her, and then she's like immediately. I love when that switch happens because she goes,
"What was the thing?" Because it was super
she sees him.
She sees him.
Okay, I get it.
She sees him acting weird, and I think she sees the handbag is what it is. And then she says, tell me this again from the beginning. And I just love that switch so much because then from that moment on, she's in. So great. What are your guys' kind of favorite scenes in this? I mean, the plot is the plot, and that's it. And we'll get into like the ending and that stuff. But there's a bunch of little fun, quirky things that happen in this movie. Let's talk about them. What are your guys' favorites?
Well, first of all, I just have to say that like the entire movie up until the dog gets murdered, I had a smile on my face, like to the point where my cheeks were hurting. Like I was smiling the whole damn time.
Yeah.
I haven't had that in a movie in like a long time. Like this movie was so fun to just look at.
Oh, beautiful.
Just peeping in on all these people. It was so fun.
I'm glad you brought that up. So there's a scene where it kind of threw me off a little bit because, um, like when the dog died. So right before that, the killer guy, what was his name? Lockhart.
Thorwald.
Thornwald. I was super close.
Lars.
I'm
Thor's
going
his name.
Thorn. All right, so there
Thorwald.
was a scene where Thorn came down, and so there's been this like back and
Totally
forth with
messed
this
it up
dog. 'Cause
anyway.
so they put
Thor.
the dog down on the through the basket, right? And the dog goes
Yeah.
over and he like messes with the flowers, and so the Thorn comes out and walks over, and there's a point where I thought he was like gonna yell at the dog or like shoot away, and he like he just pets it like, okay, doggy. And then like the next thing he's dead.
Well,
Yeah.
he pets it and sends it away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
But it was a
'cause there's
very
people
innocent,
watching.
like little scene, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the next time we see this dog, it
The
is
shot
dead, and I
is
was
one
just
of my
like,
favorites. So after we
can't be
after the
him.
after the dog, and it's very sad. You're like, because I was like, oh no. And they take the dog up. There's that great shot where Jeff's like, there's he did it. He's like, I thought that he almost had me convinced, because there's that scene with Doyle that comes in. They have that nice conversation where he basically tells him it's not him. He's no more a killer than I am. Blah blah blah. And he's
Mhm.
like, he almost had me convinced, but he killed that dog. And she's like, how do you know? He said, everybody else, when they heard the scream, came to the window, but one person didn't.
Mhm.
And we see his just cigarette glowing in the darkness. Love that. I was like, that is
Yeah.
straight up brilliant. What a gorgeous shot. Like, just, masterful.
Yep.
What do you guys think
And
of that
only
one?
somebody who has been watching the landscape for the last 6 weeks would notice something like that, and that's brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Yeah, that's good. That's a good scene. I also like that. So this Lonely Hearts has some really compelling, like, little story arc
Mhm.
going on. So she's by herself making dinner, passes out, and then she goes out on the town and brings
Dude,
home a
you
guy.
glossed over this. The scene where she like is by herself and she's like pretending someone's there and she draws two things of glass. I was like, man, this lady's either practicing or she's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then whenever she like sat down and was like, I was like, oh, she's just crazy.
yeah,
She's
and
lonely.
But
she's
she
just
is lonely. That was a
needs
terrible thing.
company.
But
And then when she brings the guy home and he like tries to assault her, like,
Yeah.
back up, bro. Like, she invited you over. She was probably gonna sleep with the guy, but he got a little
Yeah.
too
aggressive, man.
aggressive.
So aggressive. Like, just cool
Yeah,
it a little bit. Probably
just
been
a tad.
fine.
Yeah, just be cool. So, yeah, Jeff ends up. They determine that they need to figure out what was in that flower bed. So Jeff, the nurse, and Lisa are like, we need to figure out a way. So Jeff's idea is to call Thorwald, and basically, well, first he sends a note. This is one of my favorite scenes, when he has her put the note under the door that says, "What did you do with her?" And there's a cat and mouse with her. What do you guys think of that bit?
That's where you first get a little bit of fear of, like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get caught. That
Yeah,
anxiety.
the suspense is great in this scene.
Yeah.
Yep, no, I agree. She had man, I would have been like sliding it under there and then like take it off like a madman, but she's just like,
Well, she has to, because that way he
she
doesn't hear her.
prances,
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, it's great. I would have too. I'd have been like, but so he calls Thorwald to get him out of the apartment and says, "Did you get my note? Meet me at Arthur's bar." So that way he'd leave the place. So he does, because and this is where you know for sure that he's guilty. I feel like this is where you're like, well, it has to be, because he says, I'll call the police, and he's like, no, I'll come. If he was innocent, he'd say, what the fuck are you talking about? Hang up.
Yeah.
Not even worry about it. The fact that he goes automatically, insinuates his guilt for sure.
Yeah.
And then we get this great scene where they go over and dig the hole up, and there's nothing there anymore because he deduced by pictures that the lilies had changed.
Mhm.
So he's like, something's buried there. That's where the dog was digging, but it's moved. There's nothing there. So Lisa decides to go into the apartment and investigate, and
Like
climbs up.
climbing up, yeah.
What do you guys think of this? Because this is when he falls in love with her. This is when he realizes that she's the one for him. Is this scene?
Yeah.
Because he's like, she will do anything. She is not the shrinking Violet I thought she was. She's kind of a badass.
Yeah, and he's also terrified that if she gets caught, that she could get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is a direct quote from the conversation I had with Quincy. I was like, "Yep, now they're both gonna have broken legs." Just climbing from the fire escape to the window.
Yeah.
I love that scene so much because she's in there. He calls the police because he was going to call the apartment to let her know when he came in. But they got distracted because Miss Lonely Hearts looked like she was about to basically take the forever nap.
Yeah.
This scene was like super stressful for me. It's like they're setting it up, and she's like, she's got the pills out, and the nurse is like, "Oh, I know what those are. You've done it 100 times." And then like, so like she's setting everything up, and then they go and like do something else. I'm like, are they not going to call the police? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
I got super like stressed out about it.
Yeah, so they call the police, and they're on the phone for her, and Lars comes back home, and she can't call Lisa to tell her, so she hides. Mm-hmm. He calls when the police finally get on the line, he tells them that there's an assault at Lars's apartment. So that way they will come to save her, and he discovers her. Yeah. And the jewelry, there's a great bit where she looks over, she has a handbag, and she's looking at us, the camera, and it's like, like it's not there. And then she finds it, and she's like so happy. And then he's there, and you're like, just get out of there. Just get out. Mm-hmm. And she yells for Jeff, so he knows that there's somebody watching. And then,
well, he really knows when she has her hand behind the back, yes, and she's pointing when I found it. When the police are
there, the police come to save him, and she has the wedding ring on her ring finger, which will prove that. Why would she have the wedding ring off if she's okay? Mm-hmm. And so he sees her signaling and looks up, and there's that great shot of him looking up at our lens, our telephoto lens. He looks right directly at it, and he's like, "Oh my God!" He knows it's he knows we're watching. Get back! The police come and save her, and it's like, why don't you do something? He's like, they'll arrest her, and he's like, why isn't she saying something? He's like, because she's smart. If they arrest her, they get her out of there. She's safe from this guy, and he can't like try to weasel his way out because she's a thief. They take him out, and then he calls Doyle to tell him. And the nurse goes to bail her out. So Jeff is in the apartment by himself, and he loses track of Lars. And guys, what do you think of the tension when you're waiting for this guy to come through this door?
I love it so much. The shots of him waiting and getting ready and sweating and in the dark. I'm just like, this is awesome.
He goes to the door to try to lock it, but he can't because he can't get up the steps. Derek, what are your thoughts?
This is where the only critique of this entire movie comes into play.
Okay.
But I'm with you there, man. Like, the suspense was killing me. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then when he does get there and he opens the door, Jimmy Stewart, Jeff's not saying anything. He's just sitting there in the dark. And he keeps trying to egg him on. And he eventually does say something. But it was very tense.
What's your critique for this part?
My critique, man. how you don't find a pair of scissors, you don't find a knife, you
We
don't
didn't have
get a
time.
spar. I know, man, but like the little like the flash thing, that part didn't really work for me. But that's like the minorest thing in the whole world.
Yeah, I like the Flash idea. I like the idea that he's trying to blind this guy, so hopefully he can get the upper hand. But it's just not working quite like he wanted it to. It does slow him down, and he's trying to just build time because he keeps looking back. He's trying to buy time for the police to arrive next door,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully, when they do, he'll get help. So, which is what ends up happening. But yeah, I like him sitting in the dark, not saying anything, because it's terrifying. The killer. The killer doesn't know who he is yet. Doesn't
Yeah,
know.
that's what's really interesting. He's like, the killer is actually scared of him because he's like,
Yeah,
what do you know? What do you want? Like, what do you have on me? Like, he doesn't
yeah.
know that he doesn't have much.
Mhm. But he pretty ballsy of him to try to murder him with the police outside. I don't know what
Yeah,
his thought process of that is. I guess probably
yeah,
thinking
and
that if he,
throw him out the window, no less.
yeah, I guess maybe if he had an accident, fell out the window, I could say I heard him and tried to save him. Some kind of yarn he'd try to spin. But the police arrive and they kind of cushion his fall when he falls,
Yeah,
so he doesn't get too hurt. The shot of him
I
falling
love the
is
reveal at the end.
definitely of the time, but
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
yeah,
I
what
like it
reveal do
though.
you love? Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
At the very end, when he's got a smile on his face and he's got two
oh
broken legs.
yeah, it's great. So
Yeah.
so he falls. The police go and they fucking get him to talk like immediately.
Yep.
They might have
Yeah,
had a phone
which I
book.
thought was
Use the
funny.
yeah. He's well, I mean, because he's not very good. He's not like a
Right.
cold blooded murderer. He just killed his wife, and then he
Yeah.
decided to kill this dog to cover his tracks. So it's not like he's a meticulous hard ass. He's just a fuck up, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, and
And
this was all because he had a mistress, right?
that is what's alluded to. Yes, that he has a mistress. We never
Yeah.
find out who that is or any of that information, but it's
She's
alluded
got to be
to.
an accomplice.
Yeah, that there is
Yeah.
a mistress because it has to be accomplice because we see two people leave. They see a woman, so that has to be who
Yep.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know who it is. I don't think it's ever revealed.
Yep.
But
No, you get the shot from the back.
so we know about that, and that his wife was a burden because she was an invalid and sick in bed, and she nagged him apparently. Because we do see the scene, and my favorite comment that he says is well, I don't think she never asked for his opinion, or when she was alive, they never asked for his opinion. She gave him, but he never asked for him. It's a funny line. But yes, Derek, the ending of this movie is great because now he can, he's staying with Lisa, who's at his apartment, and she's reading about the Himalayas. But he's happy as can be because he's laid up for another 6 weeks with another broken leg with the love of his life, who, now they can go on adventures together later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's reading a book about the Himalayas, and then she puts it down and picks up a fashion magazine.
Exactly, because she's still her. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, love it.
What do you guys think of this ending?
It's great. It's a
Yeah.
great ending. It's like,
It's a perfect thing. Oh, wait. And Miss Lonely Hearts gets a happy ending.
We have
too.
to talk. Yeah, we have to talk about the closure we get for all of the character arcs because we talked about Miss Torso. Her
Mhm.
army man comes back. Miss Lonely Hearts talks to the musician.
He saved her life.
the composer.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's this great scene where she's about ready to do it, and he starts playing his piano.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it distracts her and what's her name? I just lost her name.
Which one? Lonely Heart or Miss Torso?
No, the girlfriend.
Oh, Lisa.
Grace Kelly.
Yeah,
Lisa. God, I cannot think of her name.
Yes.
It distracts her and Lisa at the same time.
Yeah,
And that's like
and
kind of
so
like when the guy's coming back into the room.
coming back in, yeah, and they set, yeah. So we see them having like a conversation, which is really sweet. So they're now, together. The couple that sleeps on the fire escape have a new dog, a new puppy that they're
Yeah.
training. So they're moving on with their lives. The newlyweds are just doing their thing.
Oh my gosh, we didn't even really talk about that, but that cracked me up the whole time.
Yeah,
The whole movie, they just keep
What
looking at
was
that closed window.
the closed window,
Mhm.
so good.
Every time you would open it, she'd be
It's
like,
so funny.
"Tom!"
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he come back. Good stuff. Good stuff.
That was
Get it while you
hilarious.
can, Tom. But yeah, great stuff. And then so everybody gets like their happy ending, and they're painting Lars's apartment because remember
Yeah.
you said they were cleaning the bathroom, and it's like, oh, probably because of the blood splatter.
The
That's what the nurse
nurse. Yeah,
says,
the
and they're
nurse
like,
did, yeah.
oh. I love when he's eating breakfast
Yeah.
and she starts talking about it, and he's like, just losing his appetite. It's so funny.
And she just says something about the suitcase leaking, and
Yeah,
as he's taking a
Yeah,
drink.
yeah.
he spits it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good
good.
stuff. So good. And that is Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Before we go through and talk about our ratings, I also want to give a special shout out to the cinematography of this movie because it's just gorgeous. And the direction of this movie because it is pitch perfect. Like, amazing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is our second Hitch, and might be heading for some more eventually. So, Lydia, you picked this. What are you going to give this one?
I think I'm gonna have to give this one like a pretty high rating. The only thing is that as far as like horror goes, this is
It's a
kind of on
thriller.
the thriller side.
It's a thriller. It's
So
not a horror movie. It's a thriller,
we don't
but
we don't
it'll
have
work
the
for us.
blood. We don't have the but so I'm gonna give it a 9.
Hot take, I don't think we need any of it.
Yeah. No, we
I
don't.
don't think I
It's
didn't miss it. No, not for
Yeah.
this thing. I'm gonna give it a 9.
Yeah, the first then a 9 for sure because this movie is so beautiful and so fun and so scary, like at points where you're
Yeah,
on the edge of
it's
your seat.
tense for sure. Master of
And
suspense. Hitchcock's called that for a reason. Yeah.
yeah, and like I would absolutely recommend this movie to anyone who hasn't watched it because you will thoroughly enjoy it.
Derek.
All right. Man, this movie is. I did not realize how influential this movie is to cinema history. And not even taking that into account, like I think the testament for a movie that is made in the time frame that this movie was made in 1954 is you watch it today and you're still like at the edge of your seat. You're still involved with the movie. It's not too far removed that you just like takes you out. You know what I mean? And this movie stands the test of time. Like I'd never seen this movie, and I had a really great time watching it last night. I'm gonna give this movie. I'm gonna give this movie a 9.4876.
I'll just give it a 9.5, Derek. Just do it.
I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I'm gonna round up.
Yeah. I was wondering how I was excited to hear your perspective on this because I knew I was pretty sure I knew you never seen it, and I didn't know how much you knew about it. So I was excited to hear your perception of, guys, this movie is almost 70 years old.
Yeah.
Almost 70 years old. Think
Crazy.
about that. That's wild.
Do you
And
think Grace Kelly is still single?
dude, if I got a time machine, good lord, what a just stunning.
She was gorgeous. She was very beautiful.
Stunning, beautiful. And I mean, great actress as well. She's so good in this. She has such a great presence and great personality. She's just phenomenal. I was like, I text you guys. It was like, how stunning is Grace Kelly, by the way, guys? I just have to know if you guys are on the same page, which I knew you would be. Look at the woman, but like, good lord. In that 4K, you're just like, how did anybody get any work done? Like, how were they just not staring at this woman longing?
Right? And when she's like kissing him on the face for like 10 minutes and he's just like not paying any attention at all.
Yeah. No.
Dude, Hitch would have been like,
I'd have to take many breaks.
yeah, Hitch would be like,
gotta cut, guys.
Jimmy, now I need you not to pay attention to this. And I'd be like, what? Are you kidding me? You know, sorry, sorry, Hitch. I was making out with Grace Kelly.
What you don't know, because you can't see, is the lower half of his body's in a tub of cold water.
Yeah.
Is what is happening.
Luckily, it's in a cast. Luckily.
Yeah.
I thought I heard like plaster cracking. Oh, maybe. I'm gonna give it, guys. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Do it. Do it.
Giving this movie a 10. It's a 10.
Yes.
This movie is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. Like,
Yes.
I went into it like, oh, Rear Window. I used to love this one as a kid, but I haven't seen it in so long, you know. And I'm going to compare this movie to last week's movie, right? So, last week we did Prom Night. So, in Rear Window, not a lot really happens. It's Jimmy Stewart sitting in a wheelchair, watching his neighbors do shit, and one of them might be a murderer. That's it. That's what's happening through this. But the difference is with this in Prom Night is boring for like 70 to 75% of the movie. Like, just nothing's happened. You don't really care about the characters. The cinematography is pedestrian, so it's not like you're wowed by it. And the performances are not amazing besides Jamie Lee Curtis. This movie has some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. Direction that makes you just hone in on the story. Performances that blow your socks off. And it's just fun to watch, man. As I was watching it, like you, Lydia, I was grinning pretty much the whole time. I'm like, how does somebody put together a movie this masterfully? It's like, wow. Like, just wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is a 10 for me. That is Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Great pick, Lydia. Just like last time. I think we all gave Psycho high marks as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did. It got it actually edged this one out a little bit.
Really?
So you gave it a 10, Lydia gave it a 9. I actually gave it a little bit higher a score. I gave it a 9.75 instead of a 9.5, but you guys actually gave it the exact same score.
Nice.
When it comes to Hitchcock, I'm a 10 whore. I just throw those 10s out to Hitch. Here you go, Hitch. Another 10. 10s all over the place.
Love it.
I mean, he's the master. It's just, from a filmmaking perspective, I'm in awe at some of the stuff he was pulling off in 1954, making movies that 70 years later, I'm still like, you know.
Well, it's just so ahead of its time. You know what I mean? Like, wow. That's all I can say. It really, like, it was kind of profound when I was watching this movie, and just like I kept having images of all these other movies in my head. I'm like, right here, this is where they took this from this. It was crazy.
Yeah, and Derek, you're becoming a Hitchcock fanboy now, right?
I mean, I always knew it was good.
Yeah, but now you're seeing things.
I mean, I haven't seen a Hitchcock movie prior to when we watched Psycho. I mean, gosh, decades. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's the master. Lydia, I know you've always been a hitch head.
Oh, yeah.
So at least I didn't call it a cockhead. That's the other thing you could call it. We're part of the cock crew. Woo, woo.
I'd rather not be called that.
We could just be the cockadoodle-doos.
We're the hitch heads. That's what it is. Hitch head.
Hitch head has got a better ring to it.
People might just think we're like huge fans of that Will Smith comedy.
Oh my gosh.
They just love Will Smith. I don't know what to tell you. So it's time to Akinize this movie.
Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me.
Who would our illustrious Tom Atkins play in this film? And this movie. Who would our illustrious Tom Atkins play in this film? And we all know who it's going to be, probably.
Who do you
His
think it's going to
cop
be?
friend.
Doyle. Yeah, it has to be the cop friend.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Or the murderer?
I just think the cop friend is a bigger role. He has more to
Yeah.
do. He gets more lines.
Yeah, and he can be sassy and like drink his like scotch
Brandy.
or whatever they were
Dude, when
drinking.
they were drinking that
brandy.
brandy, you used to warm up brandy back in the day.
Oh my
So
gosh,
they, like-
dude, that was one of the funniest things to me was that they were all in this one frame and they're all just standing there and they're all swirling at the same time. I was like, that's
Swirl
the
them,
funniest
Brandon,
thing I've
love
ever
it.
seen.
That's why I poured a drink, because I said after I watch movies that take place in the 50s, 40s, 30s, they're always drinking brown amber liquids, and I was like, I'm gonna pour myself a little scotchy for this episode because it just seems right. But yeah, they're just twirling that brandy and their sniffers. It cracked me up. But yes,
was
he would
funny.
be a great Doyle. I think he would be good as Doyle because you can't replace Jimmy Stewart. I mean,
Right.
Hey, can
just
I
can't.
throw in a side tangent here that's related to nothing that we're talking about except for your take on alcoholic beverages?
Sure.
You guys ready for
No.
this?
No.
All right, now listen. I should have been part of the marketing team back in the day for Back to the Future because I would have had a picture of Doc Brown like holding a scotch, and the tagline would have been "Great Scotch." What do you guys think? That'd have been classic.
You
That'd have
went
been
a
great.
long way around for that
That's
one.
pretty good.
I am ahead of my time.
You could do it with a lot
That's
of
all I'm
things.
saying.
You could have him tape something to a wall and say, "Great Scotch,"
Great Scotch. See, there you go.
or he could be eating a Werther's and say, "Great Scotch."
All right, you lost me on that one.
You know Werther's,
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch candy.
Yeah, I know. And I actually didn't get the butterscotch connection. That's okay. It's like Werther's. Why Werther's?
'Cause
Okay,
the butterscotch.
I get it.
Dude, I used to love some Werther's.
They are good. I will not
They
lie.
are good. Yeah, they're still good. Probably. I haven't had one in a while. I also don't know
Yeah,
any
they
old
are.
people that'll just hand them out to me. So
I mean, they sell them at the store.
they do.
They're that
One
good.
day,
I'll buy 'em.
Jimmy, we will be those people.
Yes, yes.
They have
Do
an
you guys
espresso
remember-
one, I'm pretty sure.
Do you guys remember the candy called Reason?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always remember the commercial with the old guy, and he hands it to his grandson or whatever. And he goes, "Mighty good, mighty reason." That was like the tagline. And I was
Nice.
always,
Those things.
as a kid, like, what kind of tagline is that?
Yeah, that's weird. Those things will like break your teeth.
Oh
Like
my
they're so
God.
like sticky. They're so like sticky and chewy.
Yeah, like the
Do you guys
fucking,
remember the
the ones on a stick.
Oh yeah.
like the taffy things?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
butterscotch.
they're
on
kind
the
of like
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys remember 100 Grand? I remember the commercial with the grandpa like telling his grandson to go like down there, and he's like, "Look, 100 grand and 100 grand and 100 grand." Like his grandpa was a mob boss or something, but it turns out it was a candy bar.
Nice.
Oh my God. Dude, these commercials.
I'll get better
yeah.
at telling stories.
It's
I
so
promise.
funny. So funny. I love those. Yeah, those old commercials. That was a little weird side tangent.
Mhm.
But back to this. We gave it our perspective ratings 10, 9, 9.5. We love Rear Window, so definitely watch it. Derek, do you have a story for us? I mean, besides that, I mean, dude, the story you told last week, I kept in the episode, and it is the worst and most hilarious. About the cameras?
About the what?
About the prom camera?
Oh yeah.
When I was editing the episode, I was crying, laughing at it. I was like, this is the worst story.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. I got a interesting story about my brother, believe it or not. It's
Of
not a great
course.
story, but All right, so picture this. My aunt who lives in Kentucky, my uncle, he's a not a great guy. But either way, she's like finally like, Derek, will you come and help me get up to Peru? And I'm like, all right, you know what? We'll be there this weekend. So I went, dude, I rented a U-Haul. And I took Jay with me because I couldn't drive my car and drive the U-Haul. So we went down there to like move my aunt back. And while we're down there, so first off, I took out, this is hilarious, man. I don't trust my brother. So when the guy was like, do you want the insurance on the U-Haul? I was like, I thought there for a second. I was like, yep, actually I do. I, I would like to have the insurance on the U-Haul just in case something happens. And so I'm kind of glad that I did. So we get down there and they're having a fundraiser for my aunt because she had a major surgery, right? So we're gonna leave from the fundraiser and take her home, take her back to her house and pack everything up and leave. And so while we're at this fundraiser, my uncle's neighbors decide that you know what, they're gonna help him by slashing the tires of the U-Haul with a knife. And so like we call the police and my brother's like out there like trying like man, I'm gonna beat you up and like going at this guy and I'm like, Jay, calm down, man. The police are on the way. We've got this guy. I mean, there's tons of witnesses that saw this guy slash the tires. I was like, calm down. I don't need to bail you out of jail while we're down here. So anyway, that guy gets arrested. I have to call like the place and I was like, hey, I got a flat tire. And they're like, yeah, we'll be there. So this guy comes, he changes the tire, gets it all good to go. The worst part about this story is we get to my aunt's house and we get all of her stuff loaded on this U-Haul. And she starts crying. She was like, Derek, I don't think I can do it. And I pulled her aside and I was like, look, I was like, this is the only time I mean, like I was out a bunch of money. Like I didn't get reimbursed for any of that. I think she gave me like $100 of the money that she raised for like this event to help her out. And I didn't want to take that, but she insisted and I was like, fine. But so she's like, I can't do it. And I sat her down, had a little heart to heart. I was like, if you don't come, I can't do this again. Like I'll never help you again. And I wasn't trying to be mean to her. That's a lot. So she stayed. And so my brother had to drive this empty U-Haul from Kentucky all the way back to Peru to drop it off.
Wow.
And my aunt stayed.
So did you have to unpack the U-Haul that you had packed?
Yep.
Oh my God. I would have said,
Her
right,
medical
starting a
bed,
boot camp.
everything. The cops were
Oh.
called because my cousins, which are her sons, were like threatening to shoot us, and we're on the top of this mountain in Kentucky, and I'm like, man, they could bury us somewhere up here. So the cops
my
were called, and
gosh.
they were, and the guy was like, I mean, this isn't the first time I've been called over here on you guys. It was a wild, wild, wild day. Then for my aunt to be like, I'm not going.
You have a wild family, Derek. You have a wild, wild family. Good Lord.
Oh my God. And
That is.
to wrap this, what's that?
No, go ahead.
So to wrap this up, like a couple of months later, she called me back and she was like, Derek, I'm ready to go. Let your mom know. And I'm like, I have nothing to do with this. I'm out. I'm not helping anymore.
Dang.
She didn't, did she?
No, she eventually did, but then she went back and she's still down there. So,
Wow. That's actually a way better story than last week's camera story.
Yeah.
Because last week's camera story was literally like next level terrible. It was literally, she thought she lost it, and she did.
Like
they all
one
can't
thing
be winners, man. They all can't be
Yeah.
winners. His shoulder. There we go.
Frozen in laughter.
You were.
That's funny.
Good stuff. All right, so next week we should have a special guest showing up that was supposed to be here a couple weeks ago, but we will have Vandy Inzor on to talk about her career, how she started in acting, and to give her perspective on the filming of Secret Admirer and what she has going on in the future. So she's one of our collaborators, one of our favorite people. So we'll see that interview next week. Eric, it's your turn to pick. What movie are we watching next week?
All right, guys. I would say that this is a classic movie, but it's not.
But you're picking it?
I'm going to pick it. So I remember watching this movie when I was like a young kid. It was one of those days where you go to the Video West and you're cruising through the VHSs and you come across this awesome cover art and you're like,
Keep giving me the nostalgia.
I just made a weird fart noise with my mouth. And anyway, so yeah, we're going to travel all the way back to the year 1986 for the classic Witchboard.
Ooh, that's a pretty good pick. Witchboard. All right, let me see where.
It's on
I've heard of that.
Freevee.
It's on Freevee?
Yep, on Freevee.
All right, you guys can watch Witchboard on Freevee. That's a good pick, Derek. Thought you were going to pick like Bloods
Thank
vs. Wolves or some shit. So, good on you.
Not
Next
today.
week. Next week, we will be watching Witchboard. So, you can be sure to comment down below on your thoughts on Alfred Hitchcock's masterful Rear Window. Tell us what you thought. Tell us your favorite scenes, and give us some other Hitchcock suggestions that you'd like to see on the show. And any other horror movie suggestions you have. We would love to hear your feedback on what we should cover next. You can follow us online at HiLaProductions.com. You can follow us on Facebook at HiLa Productions. You can follow us on Instagram at Scream Bloody Movies. And you can follow all of us on Twitter at Racket is me, Derek is DDogly Master, and Lydia is at Lydia is Spooky. Now, guys, next week we will be watching Witchboard. So I'm excited for that. And we'll have an interview with Vandy and Zor, and we might have some big news about the upcoming project that we revealed several episodes ago, the feature version of Secret Admirer. So stay tuned for that. But until then, be sure to comment down below, like, share, and subscribe. And for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. And remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.